Good afternoon, my name is MGray, and in this tutorial what we're going to be looking at is the introduction of a new plugin from 3ds Max, for 3ds Max called Gepetto. And we're kind of going to go through a little bit of the basic walkthroughs of this and some of kind of the known limitations of this plugin, and hopefully get you to a point where you can very quickly implement this into any of your projects. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is that whenever you have downloaded the plugin from 3ds Max that is available on their website. After you download it and install it and restart 3ds Max, what you'll get is a dialog box that looks something like this, and you'll get a new tab that is People. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is we have an empty scene here in Max. So what you're going to want to do is on the Crowd tab, click Create Crowd. What this is going to do is implement a new object within the scene called an Orchestrator. And for now we're not going to worry about what the Orchestrator does, but the next thing that you'll see is the two big components of Gepetto, which is the Create Flow and the Create Idle areas. Now what the Create Flow does is it'll allow you to plot a path within your scene and then have characters of a semi-realistic nature walk on these paths that you have defined. And the Create Idle areas, which there's three different options to those, which is a free area. Now the free area will allow you to basically what it's saying is to create a free shape that then these characters will be defined within this customized shape. Or you can create a defined rectangle or a defined circle. And then after that, after we've plotted a couple paths, we'll show you what the simulation and the options that can go along with the Gepetto tool. So first, now that we've already created the Orchestrator, we'll go to Define Environment and then click Create Flow. So what this is going to do is, now you've seen over in your dialog box the path flow has been highlighted. So what we're going to do is we're going to click a couple times here, and then to get out of this, what we're going to do is hit Escape, and now we have a really simple path defined. And then what we're going to do for now is we can go ahead and hit Simulation, and the number of frames, so let's say we have a 3-minute long animation, it's going to be X number of frames. We can define how many frames that these characters will be walking on this path. So for now, we'll go ahead and leave this at 300. You can set that to whatever you like, but go ahead and click Simulate. And as soon as we click Simulate, go ahead and watch down here at your time slider, because your time slider will automatically start. And there we go. It's clicking, creating some of those pedestrians, and now we see that we have nice pretty people walking on our paths. So we can go ahead and pause this. It really doesn't matter what time we're in, but first what we can do is we'll go over here to the Modify tab right here, Modify, and it should say Path Flow 1, which is the path that we're working on. And one of the nice things that you can do is we can increase the density of people that will be walking on these paths. And so if we zoom in, what you'll see is that these characters are X-referenced back to another 3ds Max file in which we actually have the people. But right now what we'll see is a blue character right here, and a pink character, a blue for men, and pink for women. So what we can do is we can increase the density, and if we start to watch these paths, we should start to see kind of these random male and females start to pop up, as you can kind of see back here in the distance. And it's going to start to randomly associate these characters onto these paths, so don't feel alarmed or don't feel like you can control these a lot. One of the things that you can do is, as you can see in this dialog box, is you control it to be all men or all women, just depending on your preference, I guess. As we're kind of going through this, we've increased the density. One of the things that you can do is we have this really nice shape, but what we can do is we can insert, which is again over here in the Modify tab, and what we can do is add new paths or add new junctures. Let's say there was an obstacle here that we needed to get around. Now we can pull that path to go around that. And here, if you start to, you can do multiple, and we'll go ahead and hit escape to get out of that. So now we can click off of insert, and now we can go back up to our simulation tab and click simulate again, and it should reassociate that density and the people onto this new path. Okay, so now what we'll do is drag that back to 0, and what we'll do is we'll go back to define environment, and the one that I like to use the most is because most of the objects that you'll create within a scene will not be a perfect square or a perfect circle. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and click the free area, and what we'll do is kind of create something on the inside of this arc, just for fun. And we're clicking and holding to create this free area, and we'll let off. And as soon as we let off, now we'll see this new free area that was created, and it's automatically placing these circles right here, like you'll see, which is a couple of a man and woman, or it'll create groups of 2 men and women. There's 3 men, and it's also populating single characters into that defined area that we've just created. So, and again, as with the other ones, we can go ahead and hit simulate here. And now we have, maybe this is a busy area with people walking around a group of stationary people. So again, we can go ahead and pause this. And what we can do is we can, one of the nice things about creating that free area is the ability to subtract that area that you've created. So let's say that we're creating a new obstacle, a new object that we can't have people standing in, so we can start to cut these people out of, let's say, that circle. And now you'll see that the blue and pink characters that were underneath these people are now gone. So if we click simulate again, we should see those people leave, and our object should be there where if we were creating an object. So now again, we can pause this again, and we can, since we have this path, a crowd area 0, 1, we have that highlighted, we can increase the density of the amount of people within that area if it needs to be really busy. And we can also do a couple more modifications to this. We can make every character that is within this area a single person, or we can make them all groups. We can also, let's take them all to be in groups. And then we can also make those either groups of 3 or groups of 2. And again, you can kind of see right now is that we have right here, we have a group of 2 that will be here. And let's go ahead and click simulate, that way you can see. And so now we have a group of 2, a group of 3, a group of 3. We can make those however we want them. If we drag it to the left with this groups of 3, groups of 2 tab in the modify, we can make all those groups of 3, or we can make them all groups of 2. And again, as the same with the path, we can make this all male or all female depending on the necessary parameters. So that should be correct. One of the other things that, I don't know, maybe we'll see it in the simulation, is you'll see underneath the group areas, you won't see this in the path, but the groups will have a green circle underneath the character. And some of them are quite large, some of them are smaller, and here's kind of a good example of what I'm going to talk about. Is this larger circle is kind of the defined area that this character, this woman, will walk around in. So you'll see this woman just in a group off to her left has a very small circle, which means that she'll be standing still, and she'll interact, she'll talk, but she won't move a lot. But this character right here, we can see that she is kind of moving around, she's walking, she's maybe restless, I don't know. But that character, they all have their own little personalities, and they'll do what they want, how they want it, and they'll start to act like traditional human beings. So if we go ahead and pause that again, one of the things that is nice, depending on the type of computer that you have, or maybe you're just wanting to see something else within the scene, is if we zoom out a little bit, we've got our path and our group there. What we can do is we can hide the environment objects, which are the characters. We can click that. Now those green circles, the character icons, and the paths are now gone, which is nice if you're wanting to do a little bit of a preview setting before you render. That would be a good option for that. We can also hide we can show, go click back on that and show the paths and the groups, and then we can hide the characters. Just another option. And then if we click on delete characters, everything that we've done will disappear. That's just Control Z. Can we undo that? Maybe. There we go. So there are a couple of more things that I would like to talk about before we go. And if we go ahead and on the ribbon button, if we want to click on minimize to panel buttons, our buttons will get a little bit larger here. We'll still see the same things. But if we right click, maybe, no, I guess it's not. There should be an option to, there we go. I was clicked on an object. Make sure you don't click an object, and then click on Show Panels. And by default, Gepetto doesn't show this, Define Crowd. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. And by default, again, if we click on Simulation, we'll see our nice white people walking around. We can change the color of those objects. At least we should. And then here's another little nice thing that I did not know until later on in the game, which was called rendering properties. So under Define Crowd, rendering properties, when we click on that, we have the ability to change some of those parameters, which could also help in rendering times, depending on the type of system that you have, which will allow you to cast shadows, receive shadows, visible and reflections if these characters are walking by mirrors or of storefronts in a crowded shopping mall, let's say, motion blur, and one other thing, self-illuminated. I don't know how much you'd be using that, but the first four is probably something that you'd probably use quite often. Okay, and some of the known limitations for this that I did want to talk about is, let's delete that crowd area and simulate, so there's nothing there. One of the known limitations is if we begin to create a flow and let's say we want to do something really interesting, which is fine, but if we start to cross this path, we should, oh well, if I didn't click, there we go. Let's just do that really quickly again. If we cross the path, okay, and let's hit escape to get out of there, and we click simulate, we shouldn't get anything, which is kind of a holdback again if you want to make one really long path that maybe would cut back in on itself. This is kind of one of those times where the software just really isn't to that point yet. So if we want to go ahead and delete that, but again, if we go back into Create Flow and we create something like that and we simulate, it should build the pedestrians and draw it for us. So paths cannot converge upon themselves. Another thing that is really kind of a holdback is that paths are restricted to this XY0 plane. So if you want to have a path of people that are walking on a second floor or a second story or raised up off that path, you'd maybe have to render those in a different scene or do something else, but this the flow itself, and we'll kind of draw just to show what I'm talking about, is if we click on our select and move tool and we drag that up, which is, we can see that it's moving up in the off the XY0 plane, but if we click on simulate, those characters will very quickly shoot back down to the 0 plane and they cannot move up off that plane. So that's a limitation of the flows, but what is really nice is that these idle areas, if we go ahead and zoom around, let's create a nice little something or another here. I don't know what that is, but again, let's drag the density down a little bit, drag the groups down a little bit. What is nice about this is before we click the simulate tab, if we do move to select and move and we drag this up, let's say it's about 50 feet, that's good. Now we click simulate, we should get a group of people that is 50 feet up off the ground. So we can have people that are off of that plane, but those are restricted to the groups themselves. Okay. And I believe that is everything that I wanted to cover within the Gepetto tutorial. If there's something that I've missed that I don't even know about just yet, please contact me. But all in all, that's all I have for you. Thanks for watching.